14th. And like all that was separating 14th from like first was like 10 points.
I basically saw no NFL anything yesterday, but I'm not really mad about that. Liverpool won. That was really the only thing that mattered to me. Apologies to everybody for the late delay, but Jordan Klein is terrible at his job. This is the NBA Strategy Show. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Adam Scherer. We are brought to you by Vivid Picks. We have 48 minutes to get through this 4-game slate. So lucky for us, we don't have too many. Jordan didn't ruin everything, but we'll be able to make up for it in incredible content. So that should help you guys out. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. Adam, what's going on? How was your weekend?
It was good. Had a solid NFL day yesterday. I was complaining to you before the show. It could have been a lot better, but made some money yesterday, so that was good. Nice going into the week. On a winning note. The weekends are always like so hit or miss in DFS if you're playing volume, because you get every sport on Saturday, you have NFL on Sunday, and it's just like going into the weekend, it's like, oh man, like I could make a lot of money, and then it's just like, oh man, I could just like lose a lot of money without even trying. So it's always nice. What'd you say?
Did you play MMA?
Yeah. I lost in
I knew this.
Big $25. I profited in the mini max. I had, I think, the 4th best lineup in the mini max. It would have been a really good slate for me if Emmers didn't break it in the first fight of the night. I didn't have a lot of him, especially in the $25. And then I did have a lot of the Sadikov fight that ended up being a draw. Sadikov in particular, I had like 40%. So if he could have just like not been an idiot and knocked out the guy that couldn't stand in round 2, it would have been a lot better. But yeah, played MMA, played everything over the weekend. So always nice going into the week and actually having made money.
Well, do you want to try to make some money on NBA for tonight?
Yeah, I'll try. I'm not super confident in it, but yeah.
Well, let's get into it. Here we go, folks. The New York Knicks, 9-point dogs in Boston, 220 total. Not a lot that we can talk about for this one right now. The Knicks are on a back-to-back, so we don't have their injury report information. On the Celtics side, everybody that is normally available is available for this one. The only guy in double digits in ownership coming from the Knicks at this point is 19% coming into Julius Randle. Everybody else is 7, 8, 6, nothing interesting. FanDuel's a little different. Jalen Brunson is 19% owned at 8K. I actually like Brunson a little bit here for 6% ownership if Julius Randle is going to be 19. I get the positions are different, but if I'm going to anybody from the Knicks, it's Brunson and Randle combined. I don't mind Barrett. I don't mind Robinson, but we kind of just, this is no different than last year. We know exactly how to roster the Knicks.
Yeah, you know who's getting the minutes, you know where the production's coming from, which is nice, but it does make it so typically in DFS, they're not going to be that interesting unless guys are out, because they're not one of those teams like Indiana or Sacramento where, or even Boston to some extent, where there's volatility in where the production's coming from or how many minutes they're going to play. You know who's getting the minutes, you know who's getting the shots, and so the salaries are just naturally pretty much where they should be. And then on top of that, you do have the brutal matchup here with Boston. Julius Randle, 8,100, I'm with you, looks fine. 15% optimal, 19% chance of, 19% ownership, 15% chance of being optimal. Power forward eligibility, just typically a relatively weak position, so that's why he's showing up as well. Brunson at 5% is always going to be pretty interesting. $8,200 price tag, obviously just a really good player. It is a tough matchup. He is point guard only, and there's just always a lot of options at that position. But for the season, 1.04 DraftKings points per minute for Brunson, 1.17 for Randle. Either of them look good. Brunson as a contrarian play, Randle as a more popular option. Playing time should be there for Barrett, $5,800 Robinson, both pulling 7 to 8% ownership. They look okay, but I think Randle's the priority, followed by Brunson.
1.20 fantasy points per minute for Randle on the season on the back of 43% true shooting.
Yep. Just speaks to how high the ceiling is.
For real, dude. What is it like? What is that fantasy points per minute rate if he's just an average true shooting dude for these first 7 games? Like 1.3, 1.35, something crazy. It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. But he looks good. Not much else to say. Terrible matchup for him. I mean, he's just going to get a sea of like real dudes. Not a lot of zeros on the opposite side for Boston, especially at full strength. Yeah, like Hartenstein's at 4,500, so I don't really think we have to play that game. Like, I don't think he is as viable on a 4-game slate as he normally could have been. That price tag kind of blocks you out of that. You certainly aren't looking to get like Robinson and Hartenstein together because of his price.
Agreed. And for what it's worth, right now I'm not really getting to the Knicks. I just finished my crunch. Julius Randle would be my highest owned guy if the slate started right now at 10%. I don't have I don't have Brunson right now. I don't have Robinson right now. I have like 4% Barrett right now. So they're not showing up as a team I'm really getting to, which is perfectly fine for me. You know, the ceilings are certainly there. There isn't much ownership, which is appealing on a 4-gamer, but you know, if they are playing the Celtics, they do only have a 107 implied team total, and they're not cheap.
No. I'm a little bit different than you, but not with any big stand. I have 15% of Randall, which is obviously irrelevant. I have 16% Brunson, which I actually do like on the surface. If you're just telling me that I get to go to 16% and he's 6% owned, like that's going to work for me on a 4-gamer. I'm not going to be mad. I don't have anybody else in double digits. So like I don't have the Knicks either, but I am getting Brunson, which I'm
holy shit. I don't have any 3% owned players in 80% of my lineups right now.
Interesting. Fun start to the day.
Yeah. Always nice to know that this might actually be relevant.
Anything else for the Knicks?
No.
All right. Then let's go to the Boston side. This one is just continuing to be impossible to talk about with any sort of confidence. 16% ownership to Derek White, 11 to Brown, 6 to Tatum, 23 to a $6,900 Drew Holiday, 10 to Kristaps Porzingis. So we do have a bit of a range here. I think these guys are way closer to each other than maybe that ownership range shows. Drew is also 27% owned on FanDuel. I don't mind, like, of that starting 5, I don't care which one of them ends up in my lineup. I'll probably have one in just about everything, but I don't think anybody really separates all that much. I'm over on Jaylen Brown the most, and I think that's something we've talked about a lot on the show so far. I'm just happy to get to any starter from Boston.
Yeah, same page. I'm getting to Derek White the most, 5,900 point guard, shooting guard. Playing time is there. 16% ownership, 17% chance of being optimal. I have 20%. Jaylen Brown showing up around 12% for me. Fields at 12% or 11%. Shooting guard, small forward, 7,800. We've talked about him a lot. He's just somebody I like getting to, especially when he's not popular. He's a little bit more popular today than usual, but he's priced for his normal role behind Jason Tatum. There are games where he just takes over, and he's naturally going to be underpriced whenever that happens. Shooting guard, small forward is really nice as well. I'm not getting to as much Drew. Probably just has to do with the guard positions. There's always going to be, alternatives there. Fields getting to 22%. I'm getting to about 8. It's not that Drew's a bad play at that price or anything. I think, again, it's just that there are a lot of other guard plays. Getting to about 8% Porzingis, 6% Horford. Not getting to Tatum right now, probably just because of the price tag.
So we're basically in the same way here. Well, I have 17% of White, 18 of Brown. I have 6 of Tatum, so I'm matching the field. I'm way under on Drew, though. 11% for Drew at 6,900, 11% of Porzingis as well. So it's just a giant chunk of those starting 5 guys. Not all that dissimilar than what we're seeing in the ownership. Basically taking whatever's coming into Drew that I think is excess and just giving that to Jaylen Brown instead. That's really the only flip-flop. Everybody else is right around their field numbers. And I think that's okay. I don't see anybody from Boston that I want to take a stand on. Do you want to get to Sam Hauser at 4K, Peyton Pritchard, 3,800 point guard, shooting guard? Because there are some spots that we need to find value today, although we have a couple of value plays that are already booked for like 40% ownership. So the question then becomes, what do we do with guys like this?
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm getting to those value plays, it looks like. So I'm not getting to Hauser. I'm not getting to Pritchard. It is a 4-game slate. Pritchard's 3,800, getting 2% ownership. Hauser's 4K, getting 1% ownership. They're in the rotation. So, I mean, if you want to view it as these guys aren't getting any ownership, they're in the rotation. Maybe something weird will happen and they'll play more than usual, or maybe they'll just get hot from the field. Fine. But we have both guys projected around 12 DraftKings points. I'm just not getting to it.
Yeah, I got 2% of Pritchard, 1% of Hauser. Like, that's just randomness is best I could tell. So nothing too crazy. When we get to some of these other value plays, they will be quite vibrant when they come to lineups. Anything else for Boston?
No.
This is a terrible slate, by the way. I've obviously taken a lap through this one already. Not fun anywhere across. Like, everything sucks. No, none of these games are good. I mean, like, Knicks Boston is a quote unquote good game, but it's also still the Boston Celtics 9-point favorites at home against a full strength Knicks team. So if you want to put these teams into perspective a little bit, that should be pretty staggering right now. Okay, I lost my run sheet. Where would I have put that? Let's find that tab. let's talk a little bit about just Stokastic in general. That's the best that I could do for right now. I don't have a promo code for you guys. I don't have an NBA treat. I don't have a lineup generator promo code or a Sims promo. I just want you guys to sign up at Stokastic, whether you want to sign up for the Sims tool. We're talking in and around $200. This is going to be the full package. This is the biggest deep dive you could take into playing DFS. I highly recommend it. But if that's not your cup of tea, if you're a little short on funds, if you just want to get in the door, NBA lineup generator is going to help you out there as well. If you're like a 1 lineup, 2 lineup, 3 lineup person. So whether you want to sign up on the NBA side for Sims or lineup generator, or maybe you want different sports. Maybe you want the NFL. You can get the same things that I just talked about. Golf, MMA, NASCAR, college football, college basketball, hockey. We're covering all of these things. Find the package that works for you. Click the links in the description of this video. Come sign up at Stokastic. Come on in the door. Why wouldn't you want to do that? We just printed a $1 million winner yesterday via the Sims tool. Peep the Stokastic Hall of Fame, folks. We got a new millionaire winner there. We'll talk about that in a little bit when we talk about the Hall of Fame. But for now, just sign up for everything. Sign up for every package we have. That would help. Would help me out. Those numbers would look really good for Adam and I on the strategy show if you guys signed up for literally everything you can get to. It would look a lot better than the Washington Wizards. 9-point dogs in Toronto, 228 total. So yeah, the gap between the Knicks and the Celtics is the same as the gap between the Wizards and the Raptors. That's terrifying to think about. You know what else is terrifying to think about? Everything that we're going to have to do for the Wizards today. We do not have an injury report yet. At some point in time, Daniel Gafford injured himself yesterday. He did not start the third quarter. Bilal Coulibaly did that. He did ultimately come back into the game, however. I'm going to assume Gafford is questionable up until tip. I'd be shocked if they don't add him as questionable when we get an injury report. There will be a trickle-down effect for that. 17% ownership coming into Coulibaly right now as a $3,900 small forward. 13% to Kispert, which is gross. 18% to Daniel Gafford, who may or may not play. 31% ownership, the highest of the team, to Danilo Gallinari, the backup, which we're going to have a big conversation about. Denny's getting to 23% ownership, and he's 6,300, which might just be the highest price that Denny's ever had. The actual guys that are good on this team, like Kyle Kuzma, barely owned. What do we do with this?
Guys, plural?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I assumed that I could have named 2 people. Tyus Jones is good.
True. Okay, yeah.
I don't want to he's not a guy or anything, but he doesn't deserve any disrespect. He does what he's supposed to when he's out there.
Yeah, that's true. I actually forget that he's on the team because Kuzma and Poole are such noteworthy characters.
My problem is that I'm having a lot of trouble separating him and Monty Morris in my brain from the past 2 years, where it's like those 2 guys are like the sort of the same dude to me. Like that 5th guy that's going to be out on the floor that plays no role in your mind. You don't watch him. He's just like there. I forget that they don't have Morris anymore
because we're not getting highlights of Tyus Jones doing stupid shit every game.
Let's start with Gallo because I think this is the weirdest one. He's in for 31% ownership. The price tag is obviously fantastic. He's been solid, 1.06 fantasy points per minute so far this season. The problem is I don't know if he can play more than 20 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know that either, but I also don't know how much. Like, it obviously matters from a standpoint of if he is hard capped at 20 minutes, he can only realistically score so many fantasy points. But on this particular slate, the way it looks right now, I still don't know that I care. Like, he's played 18 to 20 minutes in 3 straight games now. So he at least looks like he is firmly in that role in the rotation. There is, you know, especially if Gafford's in, some non-zero chance that Gallo just disappears like we've seen at times this year. But it's starting to feel pretty safe that he's playing this role. He's 3,700. He's over a fantasy point per minute guy, like you said. And we just don't have value on this slate right now. He's also forward eligible, so it's easier to get there than, say, waste a guard spot on Peyton Pritchard. So, yeah, I mean, I'm getting to about 46% Gallo right now. It's disgusting that he is 30+% owned, but I think it's more just a function of the slate than the field actually doing anything wrong.
So I only got to 20 against that 31, which, again, as I look at it, more than okay with that happening. The real question becomes, because I think this would change, and I think you and I will be on the same page that it probably shouldn't much. This is 31% assuming Gafford is in.
Right.
If Gafford ends up out, I don't really think Danilo Gallinari's ownership should really move all that much. because I don't really think we're unlocking anything.
No, I agree with you.
But then we get a 3K Mike Muscala at center potentially. He becomes a better play than Gallo then, right?
Yeah, if he's starting.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way I view Gallo with regard to Gafford is if Gafford is out, I think it removes pretty much any doubt you have about if Gallo is going to be in the rotation. You know, and like I said before, like I'm pretty comfortable he's in the rotation at this point. Yeah. But we have seen those minutes.
Let me give you one caveat though for today. This is a back-to-back for the Wizards.
True.
I don't know the status of what Danilo Gallinari is going to be on a back-to-back. Sure. 30 days has September. So they did have one, and he did play 16 minutes and then 19 minutes. So maybe much ado about nothing, but is something to think about.
Right. But like, you know, like we were saying, I think that it's very likely he's just in this role in the rotation right now. Yeah. But if Gafford's in, it does become easier for the Wizards to just say like, oh yeah, well, actually, we're just not going to play him today for any reason. If Gafford's out, that becomes a lot more difficult to do. So I think it does make that floor a little bit higher for Gallo. Yeah. And it does, if he can and is allowed to play more than 20 minutes, Gafford being out does increase the likelihood that happens. But we don't know if that's the case or not. Gallo is more likely to play 24 minutes with Gafford out than he would be with Gafford in. But from a what most likely happens standpoint, I think it's like 18 to 20 minutes from Gallo one way or the other. Muscala, certainly, if he's starting, you know, playing low 20s in minutes, is going to look like a good free value option. Koulibaly should play more if Gafford's out. You know, like you said, we saw him start the second half last game. We had seen him start a previous game when Gafford was out. It makes all the sense in the world for the Wizards to actually want to get him minutes. So he would start to look better if Gafford's out as well.
Is he a better play than Danilo Gallinari right now, whether Gafford is in or not?
I'm around the field on Koulibaly. He's been a 3/4 of a fantasy point per minute guy so far this season. He certainly can play more minutes. He played 34 minutes yesterday. Again, that was in part because of Gafford's injuries. Started the third quarter, played the entire fourth quarter. If Gafford is out, I think Koulibaly is a better play than Gallo.
Yeah, that I completely agree with. I think there's a case to be made that even if he's in, they're basically the same. And it's just all about like what's the difference between small forward and power forward. Because Gallo's like Koulibaly, you're going to have to project for a few minutes more than Gallo by default, regardless of status. But Gallo is also the better per minute guy by probably 0.2 fantasy points per minute, if you want to be like really pessimistic.
Right. Like the reason that I think Gallo is the better play if Gafford is in is that you're likely getting like 20 minutes or so from Koulibaly. You're getting, call it 18, 19 from Gallo. And that gap in per minute production is pretty big. And Gallo is more popular, but it's still like 2-1. It's not like Koulibaly's 5% owned or something.
That's the thing for Koulibaly. I don't know what his actual, like what their goal for his minutes are. Like in the games where Gafford's not around, he's playing like 28 to 30 minutes in all of these games. When Gafford is around, we don't totally see that.
Yeah, the last game that Gafford just played the full game, Koulibaly played 19 and a half minutes, Gallo played 18 minutes.
Yeah.
And Kispert only played 16 in that one. So like you could see Kispert take minutes from somebody.
What do we do with the rest of this team then? If Gafford's in, how do you feel at 5,500? Because this is another guy where he's either playing 18 minutes or 30, and you have to project him for neither. Like you have to project Daniel Gafford for a level of minutes that he basically will not play.
Right. Yeah, if he can avoid injury and foul trouble, like there is plenty of playing time for him. You go back to that Charlotte game, he played 30 minutes. He's a fantasy point per minute guy. He's 5,500, getting 18% ownership. We have more than 22% chance of being optimal. I'm getting to 34% right now if he's in. So he looks like a good play to me. I'm basically 2x the field. And then again, if he's out, it's just opening up value elsewhere on this team.
I don't want the value of Kispert, but I understand why it's happening. The Denny one is, I don't want to say weird because he's been good, 1.07 fantasy points per minute, but 6,300 for Denny here, small forward, power forward. It does have a bit of sticker shock to it at this point.
Yeah, like he's earned it.
Yeah.
He's been over a fantasy point per minute guy. You know the playing time is going to be there. That being said, he's getting 23% ownership. I have none right now.
No, it's not a name thing.
No, it's like I just double checked. In the pool of lineups I built, he showed up 25% of the time. He just got kicked out of all of the lineups I'd be playing, probably because of ownership and a relatively low projection for his salary. If that projection comes up a bit, then I'm going to get more. But so again, it's not that I think he's like a bad play. It's just at this ownership, I'm having trouble getting there. And if you look at the boom bust tool, it does make sense. You know, like I used our projections for everything I'm talking about, and we have him with an 11% chance of being optimal at 22% ownership. That's you like using that information. That's the kind of guy that I would want to be not really getting to.
I got to 17%, so I'm a little bit under that 23 mark. That all works for me. No major qualms. I think I'm probably a little too high on Koulibaly. Like I'm getting there and then some for value. So dialing him in throughout the day and getting that. But like,
boy,
do you find somebody that you are getting to now?
I'm just getting over the field on Jordan Poole and Tyus Jones instead.
Yeah, I don't have any of those dudes really. 3% of Poole, 2% of Tyus Jones. I have 9 of Kuzma, 1 of Shamet. I'm not really getting to much else here for Washington.
Yeah, I'm at 16% Poole, 14% Jones, so pretty much 2x on both guys. And I don't hate it on this slate. No. You know, neither guy is super exciting, but they're both fantasy point per minute players. Poole is at 7K, point guard, shooting guard, 9% owned. We have one with a 16% chance of being optimal. Jones 7% owned, 11 or 13% chance of being optimal. So I'm pretty much just in line with the optimal percentage on those guys and over the field. So maybe their ownership comes up, maybe their projection comes down and things look different later. You know, that is something that I tend to harp on these shows is when you do get like a 2x gap in optimal percentage versus ownership percentage in the morning, most of the time that gap closes because the field's just good. The field doesn't generally make mistakes like forgetting Jordan Poole exists or Tyus Jones exists. Like at 6 p.m., if data is still suggesting that they are 15-16% to be optimal, they're probably going to end up coming in at 12 to 15% owned. But you know, right now with the ownership that we have, the projections we have, I would want to be over the field on those guys.
Quick reminder for Tyus Jones. DeLon Wright did not play yesterday, and I assume is out again today and for a little bit. I think he's a little dinged up, so that is helpful for Tyus Jones.
Yeah, you got 23 minutes yesterday.
Yeah, it was a weird one across the board for everything yesterday, but
yeah,
I
his playing time's just been crazy this year.
Yeah. Opposite side of this one, we're casting a pretty wide net of 20% owned dudes. 20%.
I have an actual question for you because I don't know what to do with it.
Okay.
Are you concerned that the Wizards are just actively tanking and that their main pieces are lacking upside in competitive games?
Yes.
Because like normally that's something where I view it as like the Wizards are just bad. I don't think they're throwing games essentially.
Yeah.
That Charlotte game was very competitive and Kyle Kuzma played 29 minutes.
Yeah, I don't really know what they're doing. It feels early for that.
Right. Like it's not something I would have even looked for, but I had a lot of Kuzma in that Charlotte game. And I'm sitting there like, all right, you know, hopefully he'll have a big fourth quarter. He should play a lot of it. It's really close. And I'm just like, okay, is he hurt? Like, why isn't he on the floor? In the second half of what was a back and forth game with Charlotte, he played 7.5 minutes in the third quarter. He played 5 minutes in the fourth quarter. He finished at 29 minutes. Like, we've seen Jones played 34 in that one, but we've seen the games where he just randomly plays 24. I don't know if that's actually what they're doing because, like you said, it is early in the season, but like, they seem to be happy to not play their main pieces very, very much in competitive games.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts. I don't get it. And by the way, chat confirmed DeLon Wright out 4 to 6 weeks, so he is for sure not playing today.
And I don't know what you do with not the information. The the Wizards yanking minutes around information. Like, I don't think you should look at this and be like, oh well, I'm not going to play Kyle Kuzma because if this game's competitive, maybe they somehow don't play him more minutes. Like, I don't think that should be your assumption that these guys are all just dead, but it is interesting how the playing time has been working out, particularly in games that they could win.
Stupid. Your team's so dumb.
I mean, if that's what they're doing, they're smart, but
yeah, I guess something like that. Smarter than they used to be. 20% ownership to Dennis Schroeder, 16 to Jake Puddle, 19 to OG Anunoby, 29 to Pascal Siakam, another 17 to Scotty Barnes. That's basically what it looks like on FanDuel as well, although Precious Achiuwa is still getting some love there. Gary Trent, 19% owned on FanDuel at 4,300. Now, we do not know the status of Gary Trent yet. We know the status. He is questionable. We don't know if he's playing. I think we have to get to a bunch of Toronto because playing Washington makes everybody look better.
Yeah, playing Washington is essentially a cheat code. There's a few teams in the NBA like that this year. I don't remember who had the tweet. but there's like 4 or 5 teams where it's like they're the fastest teams in the league and the worst defenses.
Charlotte.
Washington, what'd you say?
Charlotte.
Yeah, yeah. Whoever tweeted it before the Washington Charlotte game, which ended up being mostly disappointing. But yeah, like last I had looked, which was before that game, Washington was first in the NBA in pace and the second, allowing the second most points per 100 possessions. Like just giving it up on both ends, and that's just a fantasy dream. So
New Orleans
Toronto's,
as well.
you said New Orleans?
Yeah, but they're one of the top teams in pace and one of the worst teams in defense to date. So
at least with them though, you get Herb Jones like guarding the main scorer, and like that can be problematic. Washington doesn't have anybody slowing anybody down.
No.
So the whole team's just going to look great. I'm getting to OG the most. I'm getting 34% of him, Fields at 19%, 6,200 shooting guard, coming off a poor performance last time out, but he's a 0.9 DraftKings point per minute guy for the season. Should play a lot of minutes. Great matchup. Shooting guard eligibility is nice. So I'm getting there. I'm like 2x the field on Pirtle, getting to 34% at 6,100. I like that. We have him with a 21% chance of being optimal. I'm getting to 28% Schroeder. Fields at 20%, 6,600. So far this season, Schroeder's at 1.07 DraftKings points per minute. He's actually been a little bit more productive than I guess I expected him to be coming into the season. So that's been good to see. I'm getting there. I'm getting to 26% Scotty Barnes, which is nearly 2x the field. Perfectly fine with that. Point guard, small forward eligible. He has been a monster this year. 1.33 DraftKings points per minute. I know Greg made the point on our Saturday show that he is running hot in some metrics and likely to come down in terms of fantasy production, but he's still doing everything for this team. We were talking about him with respect to Pascal Siakam on that show, and Siakam only producing about a DraftKings point per minute so far this year. And I said that my concern was that it's not even like Siakam's usage is down or his rebounding is down. Scotty Barnes is just beating him across the board in every category. Scotty Barnes has a 24.5% usage rate. Siakam's at 24%. Scotty Barnes has a 24.5% assist percentage. Siakam's at 19.5%. Scotty Barnes has a 14% total rebounding percentage. Siakam's at 11%. So you're seeing Barnes just sort of take over what used to make Pascal Siakam so good for fantasy. It's now become Scotty Barnes. And so that price tag is elevated, but I think it's warranted, especially in this spot. I'm over the field on him. I'm under the field rather on Siakam. He's 8K, power forward center, getting 29% ownership. I still have 18%, which is perfectly fine given the matchup and the fact that his price tag is dropping. But it kind of just seems like we're at least expecting the field to sort of be treating Siakam like he is previous season Siakam, when I still think he is good. He's clearly a good basketball player. He's clearly going to have games where he has very good games, but he's taking a backseat to Scotty Barnes, and there's no way around that.
Yeah, this is the tricky one for me. So I'm getting to Barnes and Siakam. I have 41 of Siakam, 25 of Barnes. And that really comes down to, what do you think Pascal Siakam is now? Because like it's in my baseline, I got him at 1.17. On the season, he's at 0.97. But whatever you think he is for this year, like I don't think he's as good as he was or as bad as he's been.
Agreed.
You have to add like a tenth of a fantasy point per minute to everybody that's playing in this game just for facing Washington. So I actually do think that Pascal Siakam for this game ends up projecting like the Pascal Siakam of old, just because of facing Washington.
Yeah, I think that's completely reasonable. The reason that I'm only getting 18%, which again isn't nothing. Like I'm not treating him like Denny Avdia where he's just not in my lineups. But I think it's just the ownership for me. Like I absolutely love that, this is just a spot where Barnes is getting 17%, Siakam's getting 29. I basically have Barnes at Siakam ownership and Siakam at Barnes ownership, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah. I would love that to be what's happening for me. I'm just getting both instead.
Yeah,
I think it's just like, cool, I'll take everything against Washington. Yeah. They look great. Look, Washington is just going to be a place where everybody looks better all the time.
I'm getting to 8% Otto Porter at 2% owned.
Right.
He's
34. I have 14% of Gary Trent. Like we're doing the same thing, just different shitty dudes.
Yeah, I have 2% Trent, 6% Achua, 2% Flynn. Like this is a team where I'm at least mixing in the garbage backups at least a little bit because of the game. Otto Porter last game only played about 15 minutes or 14 minutes with Trent out. That game was a blowout, so we didn't get to see what was going to happen down the stretch of that game. In their previous game, which I can't find there, against Dallas, Porter he only played 15 minutes, but he was in the closing lineup. which was somewhat interesting. That's not something I think happens very often, but there is some chance, especially with if Gary Trent does miss this game, there's some non-zero chance that you just go from 14 minutes for Porter to like 18. And at 3,400 on this slate against the Wizards, that actually could be valuable.
Yeah, I think we can find a lot of good, valuable stuff here. And if he plays 4,800 for Trent, he's been so bad this season. But, point guard, shooting guard, 4,800, like it's at 5% ownership. I'll take a shot there.
If the slate started right now, I would have at least one lineup with 9 different Raptors.
So you get Porter, Achua, and Malachi Flynn, I guess?
And Trent.
Okay. Well, yeah, I was counting him by default.
Yeah.
I didn't get any of Flynn or any of Porter Jr.
Yeah. Flynn's only in one lineup. Trent's only in one lineup. But
yeah, I didn't think you had a shit ton.
No. But yeah, I mean, it just goes to like, there's going to be a ton of fantasy points for Toronto. Obviously, the starters are where you begin, but there's a lot to like here. Does facing Washington count as a revenge game for Otto Porter? Because I can't imagine he has much animosity towards the team that gave him a max contract for.
No, he got a bag and he isn't still there. I'm sure he's stoked. I'm sure he's quite happy. Did he get a ring?
Oh, I was thinking with the Wizards. I was like, no.
Did he get one with he on the State? Warriors? Yeah.
I don't know.
I can't remember what he's been so hurt for full seasons that I can't remember how what he closes a roster for if he's not available.
I forget what year he was sitting on the Warriors bench, what year he was sitting on the Bulls bench.
Yeah. James Green and John P both said yes, so I'll go with yes. Then yeah, he definitely doesn't care.
Yeah. My lean was yes, but I didn't know.
So was mine, but I can't remember any longer. What I can remember is this. Vivid Picks is the sponsor of this video, and they want you to have more money than you do in this moment right now. You can get $300 additional if you've got 300 to your name and you want to sign up at Vivid. Click the link in the description because they're going to match anything up to $300. That is an exceptional deal. The idea of being able to deposit $300 at Vivid Picks and then have them also match that deposit to $300. You won't find better deals than that in this pick'em space. If you're a prize picks person or an underdog person, this is just another one that you could add to your list. And you have the ability to get significant money on your first deposit. Not only that, it also comes with a $25 secure play. So if your first entry loses, you will get it refunded up to $25 in Vivid site credit. So not only do you get the bonus when you're depositing, you could take your first shot and not really worry about it all that much. You could really try to build yourself out of bankroll. If it turns out that you're not a big fan of playing Pick'em at Vivid, at the very least, you put yourself in a situation to have a much bigger bankroll than you would have if you didn't take the shot. And maybe this is just the place you want to be. I wouldn't be surprised at all. So sign up for Vivid Picks using the link in the description. Bulls, Bucks. Woof. Chicago Bulls are 8-point dogs in Milwaukee, 229 total. Bulls played yesterday, so we do not have an injury report. The Bulls don't really mess around with their rotation all that much, so it feels pretty easy to check this one out. And it's kind of like everybody with a pulse is 20% owned. 30% actually to Kobe White, 24 to DeRozan, 20 to Vooch, 23 to Levine. I'm actually getting to 11 of Torrey Craig, who's playing a little bit more. Basically nobody else. Patrick Williams getting a little bit because he's 3,700, but you're kind of just getting the 5 starters for the Bulls in 20 to 30% of lineups. And that seems like exactly where these guys should be on.
Yeah, I was only half listening because I was diving into Pascal Siakam's speed quickly. But yeah, Bulls.
Yeah, on the Bulls. We are on the Bulls. Yeah, so I thought you were just like agreeing with my take of like, yeah, they're all here.
No, I was making sure that I had caught the end of what you were saying. This is another team just getting ownership. Vooch coming in at 20%. I'm getting to 34%. So always happy to be over on a $7,600 Vooch. This is a spot too, like a price range where he compares to Siakam. So, it's a different position. Siakam's power forward center, so it's more favorable for him. But Vooch getting half or 2/3 the ownership of Siakam. I'm playing him more in line with what the field's doing with Siakam. I am perfectly happy with that, especially, like I said, I'm playing a bunch of Gallo at power forward. There are some other power forward options you can get to. So I do like kind of comparing Vooch to Siakam as well, and the way that's working out. Field's getting to 23%. Levine, shooting guard, small forward at 7,800. I'm getting to 28% there, so a little over the field. I'm under the field on DeRozan. Fields at 24%. I'm at 8. Right now, we only have DeRozan 14% to be optimal. So I think that's why I'm just not getting to as much. And obviously, we'll have to keep an eye on the injury report too, since they did play yesterday. But of the main three, I'm getting over on Vooch, getting over on Levine. I'm under on DeRozan, but it's not like DeRozan's a bad play. Still a good fantasy producer and all of that. Kobe White, Fields getting to 30%. I'm getting to 24. I don't love it, but the playing time is there. It's a 4-game slate. You kind of have to take what value you can get. 0.8 DraftKings points per minute for him this season. Not the most exciting, but it is what it is. Nobody else really getting ownership. Torrey Craig getting 11%. I'm not getting there right now with Caruso projected in. We had Caruso out yesterday. I ended up getting to a lot of Craig on that slate. So I think, what ends up happening with him will matter. Craig played 31 minutes in that game, but if Caruso's back, you're probably seeing those minutes cut into a little bit.
Yeah. 4.07 miles per hour per game for Pascal Siakam last year. That is down slightly from his rate this year of 4.13.
Yeah. On offense, last year he was 4.55. This year he's 4.5.
Okay. So the same.
Yeah.
So the stupid Bulls team, 18 of DeRozan, 29 of White, 21 of Vooch, 19 of Craig, 15 of Levine. I'm just like right around the field on all of these guys. Torrey Craig as a value option's fine. Torrey Craig as a pivot to Danilo Gallinari also starts to become like a very interesting dynamic.
The problem it's the points per minute. It's the Koulibaly problem. Like, if Alex Caruso is in, I just don't know that you can expect Craig to play enough minutes that he's that close to Gallo. That's not to say that like he can't beat Gallo more than 1 in 3 or 4 times. The ownership gap is pretty wide, but it's not an apples to apples comparison when you're giving up 0.3 fantasy points per minute.
Nope. No. Torrey Craig, not the best per minute dude. But it's hard to talk about anybody. Like, if Caruso's in, I don't think you're playing him. Right. I can't remember who was trying to tell me that because Andre Drummond was good yesterday, we should play him today. Well, he's 4,700 today. So I'm going to go ahead and not do that.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised when I looked and saw that I wasn't getting to Drummond on a slate like this, because normally I would be. I didn't realize that he was up to 4,700 until now.
Yeah, it was like, that's untenable.
Yeah. I'm getting over the field on Patrick Williams at 3,700. I think that's another... If Gallo shits the bed, Patrick Williams can beat him at low ownership. But like, that's how I view Williams and Craig. It's not like it's a horse race where like they can really beat Gallo if Gallo does what Gallo typically does. It's more if Gallo just has a terrible game and scores 10 fantasy points, then Torrey Craig can beat him by 8 or Williams can beat him by 8. But like, it's really unlikely that you get a game where like Gallo is fine for 3,700 and he loses to Torrey Craig or Patrick Williams.
Right. I have nothing else here for the Bulls.
No, me neither. To me, it's the starters, essentially.
Time to get to the most uninteresting team on today's slate, the Milwaukee Bucks, who have been just straight ass this season, too. Dame is probable, but Jay Crowder is out. Now, what that leads to, I don't think we know yet. But the highest owned guy on the team right now is $5,400 Bobby Portis. The second highest owned guy on the team for Milwaukee is 10% owned Marcin Beauchamp. Everybody else is in single digits. Giannis is at 9. Dame is at 4. Connaughton's at 7. Don't forget, we've named a couple guys that are pulling some ownership at relatively low salaries. We're still not getting to Giannis and Dame. I lean Beauchamp as the best play here for the Bucks. Shooting guard, small forward, 3,300. Also terrible per minute. It's also not out of the realm of possibility that Bobby Portis gets a decent chunk of minutes, at which point you want significantly more of him, but he is 5,400. I just don't know. I don't have a great feel of minutes yet.
I have 38% Bobby Portis right now. And
reasonable. What do we have him projected for?
Yeah, so we have Portis at 24 minutes.
So do I.
The reason that I would be... So I completely agree with you. We don't know where these Jay Crowder minutes are going. He barely played in the second half last game. He played a minute and 27 seconds. AJ Green was the one that subbed in for him and ended up playing in the second half. That's not particularly useful. Yeah, AJ Green might be in the rotation now, or probably is in the rotation now, but that's not somebody that you're likely to be looking at in DFS unless more people get ruled out. But Crowder losing minutes, like that could become more Beauchamp. It could become more Pat Connaughton. It could become more Bobby Portis. It could be some combination of all of that. The reason that I like Portis so much is the same reason I always like Bobby Portis on these slates when he's cheap, and not that he's unowned at 14%, but relatively low owned. If he just plays 22 minutes, he can get there because he's a 1.1 DraftKings point per minute guy. If he gets some of the Jay Crowder minutes, which we don't know if he will, but it's certainly possible he could, he's likely to be producing when he's on the floor. And even if he doesn't get any extra minutes, you're not drawing dead because he can just beat a $5,400 price tag by being Bobby Portis. Like he can double in 20 minutes. So that's why I like it. It's just 14% ownership isn't that high. We have one of the 17% chance of being optimal, but there's volatility in the minutes and there's volatility, obviously in the production like there always is. And keep in mind too, like even if the Bucks are going into this game and for whatever reason, they're just like, we're not giving Bobby Portis a single one of Jay Crowder's minutes, you still have the Brook Lopez foul trouble out. Like Bobby Portis can get more minutes that way. There's a lot of ways for him to get more minutes, and he just produces when he's on the floor, which is different than every other player that I just mentioned that could get more minutes with Crowder being out. Pat Connaughton, 0.59 DraftKings points per minute this season. Beauchamp, 0.67 DraftKings points per minute. AJ Green, only 36 minutes played, but 0.76 DraftKings points per minute. If you wanted to throw Malik Beasley into this mix, 0.7 DraftKings points per minute. Like all of these guys suck at scoring fantasy points and may or may not be getting some of these Jay Crowder minutes. Bobby Portis may or may not be getting minutes, but at least he's good and, has the volatility there. So I really like taking a stand on him as a relatively low-owned, pretty inexpensive piece that it's just not hard to imagine at all him breaking the slate.
No. He does enjoy playing the Bulls. I'm going to put that narrative out there as well.
If only they'd bring back Mirotic.
Yeah. 51 in his last game against the Bulls in this past April, played 37 minutes in that one. Don't expect that. But no, I think he looks good. Beauchamp is just the guy that I look at where it's like, okay, you get the best positions. It seems like he probably at least minimally gets some of Jay Crowder's playing time. I went to 22 minutes, 0.66 fantasy points per minute, 3,300. Just works as a value play. Doesn't appear to be unlocking Giannis for me, but works as a value play. You could also get to Pat Connaughton. You can also get to Malik Beasley. Like the rest of this starts to become really gross. I don't know how you prioritize anything here from Milwaukee.
Yeah, I'm not getting to much outside of Portis. I have 8% Giannis, which is in line with the field. 11-1. So the problem is the price tag jumped with Dame being out. Now Dame is back. We've already talked about the problems overall with Giannis this year, where his production is down because of Dame. The assist percentage has gotten chopped. And then now the salary is, the playing time isn't always there. And then, now the salary has gone up. So yes, on a 4-gamer, raw points do matter. These top end raw points can matter a lot more, but it's just tough to get to him, especially on a slate where you're talking about the value plays being Danilo Gallinari, Bilal Coulibaly, guys like that. It's tough to start wanting to jam more of them in the lineups to get to a 54 fantasy point projection from Giannis. But he is my second highest owned Milwaukee guy behind Portis. I'm getting to 8% Lopez as well. He's 4% owned at 5,600, 8% chance of being optimal. Perfectly happy to just be a little bit over the field there. Getting to 4% on Beauchamp, 4% on Beasley, one lineup apiece of Connaughton and Lillard. I'm not really getting to this team outside of getting a lot of Bobby Portis.
Anything else for the Bucks?
And I do think a $3,300 shooting guard small forward Beauchamp is a perfectly fine value play. It's just one of those value plays that the point per dollar is appealing. There's not a whole lot, unless he just like happens to get 5 steals or something. There's not a whole lot of like volatility in him to give you the raw points that like you have to have.
Hit that like button if you haven't done it yet. Schedule for the rest of the day is pretty easy. Adam and I will be back at 5:30 for the deeper dive. So you'll get us from 5:30 to 6:30. We'll have a little bit more news at that point, so that should help us out tremendously. You'll get NBA Live Before Lock from 6:30 to 7:30. But we don't stop there. Then you get NFL Live Before Lock from 7:30 all the way up until the lock of Monday Night Football. You don't want to miss it. And you definitely want to keep an eye on that Monday Night Football show. Make sure you're watching NFL content on the Stokastic YouTube channel because we picked up a lot of dubs yesterday in the NFL streets, including Short Gamer TV picking up the Millie. Shout out to the Sims. I believe we had somebody take down another 100K in like the 20 max, if I remember that correctly. A massive day. Article is posted at Stokastic that outlines it, but we hit the Millie last night. Big stuff, Adam. I know you wish it was you, but it's always good to see a Stokastic logo at the top of the contest.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, outside of me winning, I guess that's the next best thing.
You guys need to sign up. You need to use that avatar when you're playing at DraftKings and FanDuel. Obviously, Short Gamer TV didn't need to use that avatar, and now that he has $1 million, he should have no trouble buying that month. But he also gets a free month for being in the Hall of Fame. If you finish in the top 3 of a contest with 5,000 or more people, you can get 1 month of whatever you're looking for at Stokastic. That's like a $200 value. As long as you have that loaded up and you tweet your result to at Stokastic HOF, you get a free month of whatever you're looking for. Don't sleep on it, guys. Put that avatar on your account, DraftKings and FanDuel. That way people know where you got it when you get to the top. So shout out to Short Gamer TV, man. That must be nice to wake up with that Millie. Or have it at least last night and party hardy into Monday morning. Cleveland Cavaliers, late night hammer, 2.5-point favorites in Sacramento. Interesting pricing here for Cleveland, and that's going to be the talking point. No Isaac Okoro. That's really the only injury news that matters. Ty Jerome is still out. 20% ownership to Darius Garland, basically 20 to Mitchell, 25 to Mobley, 30 to Jared Allen, and 8 to Max Strus. I had it's those 4 guys and basically nobody else. I don't mind a little Strus, but 5,700 is just gross. But I really like $7,200 Darius Garland.
Yeah, I'm getting to those 4 guys as well. 21% ownership coming into Garland with a 19% chance of being optimal. I have 26%, so slightly over the field, but pretty much there. 7,200 is just a good price tag, good matchup. Good fantasy producer. There's nothing really just to dislike about that salary for the season. Garland coming in at 1 DraftKings point per minute in 165 minutes played. He's my 4th highest owned Cav, which, at 26%. So it kind of just speaks to how good these guys look. 9,300 for Mitchell, shooting guard, small forward, field at 17%. I'm at 28. Perfectly happy to get there. That's, probably where some of my Siakam and Julius Randle is going, a little bit more expensive Mitchell, but good spot for him. 1.4 DraftKings points per minute for the season. Now keep in mind Garland was out for some of that time, but still clearly a very good point per minute guy. Evan Mobley coming in at 25% with a 25% chance of being optimal at 7,400. He's the guy I'm getting to the most from Cleveland. I have 38% of him. Another power forward that I'm getting to. So, that's why I don't have as much Siakam. I don't have as much Julius Randle. I'm perfectly happy to be getting over the field on Mobley at a cheaper price tag than both of those guys. Jared Allen, $5,700 center. He's pulling 30% ownership, 21% chance of being optimal. So a good play, but probably going a little bit over owned. I'm right in line with the field though at 28%. So the fact he's going over owned right now isn't affecting me too much. So I'm just getting a lot of those main 4 guys. And then I'm pretty much with the field where Levert is pulling 6% ownership. Strus is pulling 8%. I have 6% of both of them, but Mobley is my top guy. Allen, Mitchell, Garland. Love getting to any of those main 4 pieces from Cleveland. The pricing is just very, very favorable on these guys.
It's funny. Garland is my top guy, and I'm a little under on Mobley, but we know exactly why I'm a little under on Mobley. I have the Siakam piece on the other one. So we're just these are, and none of that feels good or bad or indifferent. We could flip flop those things. And I don't think you're going to be like, oh no, I have too much Siakam and not enough Mobley now.
Right. Yeah.
It's just I don't know.
Yeah. If I looked at this and was just oh, I'm playing 40% Siakam against the Wizards and 25% Mobley, I would not be upset. But I do like we had talked about, I just like the fact that, Siakam is the one getting 30% ownership there. And I'm just getting to these other guys, Mobley's in that range in ownership as well, but he is cheaper. Yeah. But yeah, it's not, this is definitely one of those situations where we're talking about our exposures, but it's not me saying Siakam's a bad play and you should just be playing way more Mobley. It's, Mobley is a little bit cheaper, a little bit lower owned, and I'm getting to more of him, but there's nothing inherently wrong with Siakam either.
And then we get to Sacramento. De'Aaron Fox still doubtful, at least as of right now. And we are getting a shit ton of ownership to Malik Monk at 43%, which I think needs a conversation. 30 to Kevin Huerter, which I think needs a conversation. 33 to Keon Ellis, who, by the way, we ended up getting right, and then it didn't matter at all. It played 30 minutes on Friday or Saturday or whatever day that was. 21% to Keegan Murray, 10 to Sabonis. Let's start with Ellis. 3,900 point guard, got the minutes. Obviously, it ended up being the Kevin Huerter day. I think he had 50 fantasy points or something. But what do we project Ellis for? And is he the best point per dollar play on the slate right now?
Yeah, I mean, this is brutal with Ellis because, like, he doesn't have to close. We know that. We talk about this a lot with the Kings, that, the closing lineup is essentially going to be Keegan Murray, Domantas Sabonis, and then 3 other guys. Barnes wasn't out there last game, other than for the final 43 seconds. He didn't play in the fourth quarter. Barnes is usually in the closing lineup, but he doesn't have to be. It's kind of just whoever's playing well, whoever they want out there, out of Huerter, Barnes, Ellis, Monk, Mitchell. So you could get a 22-minute game from Keon Ellis. You could get a 30-minute game. He's been 0.9 DraftKings points per minute in the 68 minutes he's played. So that's at least good to see, very limited sample, but he's at least doing some stuff while he's out there. He only has a 6% assist percentage this season, which you don't love to see. 17% usage rate, true shootings at 56%. From a rates standpoint, it's hard to see how he maintains 0.9 DraftKings points per minute, which is concerning. But it's also just, there's a lack of value on this slate. He's getting 33% ownership at 3,900, 25% chance of being optimal. Right now, I'm pretty much with the field. I have 36%. I don't like it at all, but it is what it is. Like, there's just not a lot of value.
I have 52% of Ellis right now. I gave him 26 minutes. I don't know how else to project him. 26 feels wrong. Well, I think 28 is more realistic to me today, just for today, than it would be lower. I don't see how you could ever go lower than 26.
From a projection standpoint, I agree, but it's really easy to see how he just doesn't play 26 minutes.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, completely. I don't think they give a shit. But right. If he's starting, I don't know how you get away from him.
Yeah. So last game, he played 13 minutes in the first half. 26 is a very reasonable projection. He ended that game at about 31 minutes, but he could just very easily not play in the fourth quarter and be done at 22.
Wouldn't be fun. I don't want 52% Keon Ellis, but assuming he's a starter, I expect him to be my most exposed player for today.
Yeah, I mean, not
ideal.
He's not for me.
I don't want him to be.
Yeah, so what is he for me right now? He's 5th for me.
It's not fun.
He's behind Monk, Gallinari, Mobley, and Portis. So one of those is a real player.
Barf. All right. Kevin Huerter, 30% owned. Malik Monk, 43% owned. I think the positional designation really helps Malik Monk out here. Is Kevin Huerter a better play? Or is it the same?
I think they're the same. Right now, I'm getting more Monk and less Huerter. Huerter, I've been on pretty much every game since Fox got hurt. Last game, of course, I had 50% going into lock. Then news broke, and I ended up swapping to a lot less, and he went nuclear. But the thing that I think you like about Huerter is just that he can pick up stuff that Fox isn't doing, or that that Fox does, but obviously Fox isn't out there. Huerter does have the ability to play make a little bit. He can obviously score, but the salary has come up a bit. He's getting 30% ownership right now. We only have him with a 19% chance of being optimal. I'm getting to 12%. I don't love that, but we also, so the thing for me right now is we have Malik Monk projected for 4 points more than Kevin Huerter at the same price and more ownership, but not a huge ownership gap. So because of that and the positional eligibility, I'm getting over the field on Monk, under on Huerter. If that projection ends up sort of evening out, they both come in at 30 instead of 32 Monk, 28 Huerter, then I would expect that I'm just around the field on both. I don't have a lot of confidence in either one, but the opportunities are very obviously there for both of them.
I have 33% of Huerter, 29 of Monk. I think that I'll end up relatively, and I have them separated by a half fantasy point. I think these guys are basically equal. You get that slight benefit from Monk having double positions. I think you want to have them both, but there is some volatility in either direction. I hope that we don't get the garbage Herder game after we like talk this one up for 2 games and then he went out and went crazy. Like, yeah. I know how this plays out, and it's with Chris Duarte playing Kevin Herder's minutes in the end of this game.
Yeah, so
which is awful.
5 games now this year with no De'Aaron Fox. Malik Monk, 1.2 DraftKings points per minute, 28% usage rate, but a 41% assist percentage. The problem is he's only played 25 minutes per game. So that's where, the volatility comes in, where you don't know how much Monk's going to play, but the production and, more importantly, the opportunities have been massive for him without Fox. In those 5 games for Herder, 1.06 DraftKings points per minute in 28 minutes per game, 23% usage rate, 16.5% assist percentage. So he's contributing in those areas. Malik Monk is dominating in those areas, but you have to project Herder for a few more minutes than Monk.
What do you want to do with like Barnes or Murray or Sabonis? I just kind of like, I think Murray looks the best of the 3, but nothing too crazy.
Yeah, I'm not really getting to anything other than Monk, Ellis, and then, to some extent Herder. I have like 4% Keegan Murray, the field's at 21%. I have 2% Sabonis, the field's at 10%. They're both fine if you get to them, but like we've already talked about my power forward exposures. I'm getting a lot of Evan Mobley. I'm getting a lot of Bobby Portis, who's $1,000 less than Murray. So the ownership on Murray, I think, is a little bit concerning, just given that it's up over 20% at a price point that I don't love, kind of like Benny Avdia. In the 5 games with no De'Aaron Fox, 0.8 DraftKings points per minute for Murray, which clearly isn't good. 34 minutes per game is nice. But the bigger concern for me than the fact that he's only produced 0.8 DraftKings points per minute in those 5 games, because he is shooting 19% from 3. Like, the point per minute production is going to come up, but 20.5% usage, 8.5% assist percentage, you're not seeing him really take on a bigger role.
No.
Like, he's going to be out there, which is great, and he's going to shoot better than 19% from 3 long term. He can certainly have a good game, but like, you're just paying full price for him when there's nothing that's really improved with De'Aaron Fox being out.
You want any Alex Len?
Should I?
$3,700 backup center on a 4-gamer. It's not JaVale McGee any longer. I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah, I mean,
by the way, I have 0. The answer shouldn't be yes, but this is an ugly slate.
It is.
These are bad games. None of this is fun ownership. Malik Monk, Keon Ellis, Danilo Gallinari, Kobe White are the top 4 guys in ownership on DraftKings right now. That is not a slate where I'm just like, whew, can't wait to sweat these games.
Right. Wait, who? Oh, never mind. I was only looking at the Sacramento Cleveland game. Yeah, my 5 highest owned guys, if the slate started right now: Malik Monk, Danilo Gallinari, Evan Mobley, Bobby Portis, Keon Ellis.
Let's see what I got here.
Not a slate that sparks a lot of confidence.
Keon Ellis, Pascal Siakam, Bilal Coulibaly, Kevin Herder, and Marshawn Beauchamp. None of that sounds better. It's bad, man. It's bad. Hopefully we get some news that like cleans this up a little bit, but I don't really think we're going to. I think we're just in for like a dumpster fire of a slate. Anything else you want to add here before we get out of here?
No, I was trying to catch up on what Jordan's talking about in chat, but no, ugly slate. I'll have an article out talking about today's pay-up options, which I guess is just Giannis.
It's a bonus.
Oh yeah, it's a bonus. Okay. Yeah. So today's pay-up options that you're not playing.
Tatum, 10K.
Okay, yeah. So guys that I forgot were on the slate because they're like impossible to get to. And I'll have my lineup generator video out in a little bit. I'll be back for the deeper dive later.
Contenders videos are already out. I will have my prize picks video out in the next hour. Perfect week. 9-0 on the plays. I don't know if that's good enough for Truth Got Picks and his 85% winners that he's picking. We could all laugh at that collectively if we want, at that impossible number. However, I'll have that out in a bit. Contenders are already out. Then Adam and I will be back for the deeper dive at 5:30. Whoo, this is going to be an interesting slate. Hit that like button if you haven't done it yet. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. We will talk to you later this afternoon. Adios.